Do you believe in God?
If I asked a religious person, I said, would you accept that God is something, some higher power? So if I changed the definition of God to some higher power, and then I said, Egan, do you believe in a higher power? I'd say yes. So we would be in agreement because of the way we've changed the language of God. But because we've labelled it God, and I have this resistance to God because of what people use the justification of God for, somehow our worldviews now are conflicting. Even though there is a massive overlap with what we believe in this world. Like I might embody the preachings and teachings of God and Jesus more than someone who says they believe in God. What makes me more religious? Is it the spreading of the messages or is it the embodiment? And it begs the question, what matters? Is it what you do or what you say you do? How do you find breathwork differs from meditation?
Meditation is just they can be one and the same thing. Meditation is just, from my understanding, is just a sense of noticing and witnessing. And you can have moving meditations, just being very conscious and aware of what you're doing and witnessing as you're in flow. Maybe that's what flow is. It's like a moving meditation. But the breath is like so it's maybe more of a moving meditation, but you're just focusing on a pattern, on a repeating pattern, like in and out, in and out. And for someone who finds it hard to be still, I always say, like, go move your body or do some breath work first, because it will allow you to bring yourself into that still place when you can just actually be still and sit there and just witness.
I find the breathwork gives you sufficient stimulus, whereas the meditation's a lot harder for an overactive mind.
For sure. Absolutely. Okay. Cool, man. Let me get my my script up. How's the Celsius?
Celsius, yeah.
Celsius, yeah.
It's been good. It's been a few weeks off him, but man, I'm happy to give up my sobriety for you.
Fantastic. I love it, man. Well, hopefully you're very energetic in this conversation, which I'm sure you will be. Yeah. Look, man, thanks for letting me use your studio. Thanks for wanting to jump on and let me interview you on Our Greatest Expression. Let's get into it.
Let's dive in, brother.
Yeah.
Super keen to be on the other end for once and see what your style is. And I feel like after doing whatever I've done, 170 odd, it's really nice to be on other people's podcasts. I think I've only been on this might be my fourth one, and it's really nice to see how other people run their show.
When was the last time you were on someone's podcast?
Probably 6 months ago, maybe, but maybe even 8 months. But it's crazy how much you change as well in such a short space of time. I remember when I first went on a podcast, I was like, I don't know, I feel like I was trying to keep up this persona of like who I was, because I was like trying to perform.
Yep.
And I think it's so easy to slip into the performative side of ourselves. So yeah, it's all a progress and an evolution, but super keen to see where you take it.
Cool. Awesome, man. Well, I want to start things off with talking about your favorite podcast ever and why that was the one.
Oh, there's so many. My two favorite guests all time have been Boris Walter and Mitchell Vickridge. Okay. Boris is just, everyone loves him because he's a hypnotherapist, psychotherapist. He does past life regressions, like super cool, super spiritual, but he's got such a grounding voice, and not only the stories he's taken us on, but he's such a humanizing figure. I just loved the stories that we had, the conversations that we had, and people love him on YouTube. So he's really helped my platform grow. So awesome. A special place for the people who helped me, the platform grow. And Mitchell Vickridge, so he's a facilitator of the DeMartini method, which we might talk about today, some aspects. I really love the method. It's a powerful framework to dissolve really negative emotions or any positive emotions as well. But it's like one of the most powerful frameworks developed by John DeMartini, and he's a facilitator of that. And it's just a paradigm shifting framework that really, you see the world in a completely different way. You see yourself, you see the past in a different way. And yeah, we're close to forming a partnership through the podcast. So super keen to be connecting close with him because I love the method.
Cool, man. I'm excited to get to know Mitchell a little bit more. Obviously, we've spoken about him before and the DeMartini method, and I bumped into him once before. So yeah, I'm keen to get him on my own podcast. And from the outside, looking at Boris, from what I've seen, he looks like a pretty interesting figure too. So I guess just to relate them back to the name of your podcast, like Timeless Mindset, could you pinpoint like out of those two conversations, what is timeless?
Well, one of the reasons I called it timeless was because like I started reflecting, because I originally called it Brooko mode. I don't know if you know that.
No, I don't.
Okay, it's called Brooko mode for like 70 episodes or something.
Okay.
And that was a nickname I got when I went on a night out because I was quite rampant.
Yeah.
A funny story. But then I started reflecting on the conversations that I was having with all these people. You couldn't really tell that they would be having at this point in time. Like I could have had them 1,000 years ago. And the fabric of the conversation was still the same. It was the core principles of what does it mean to live a meaningful life and how do you create a meaningful life? Like what's the process to get there? Why do people think the way they do? All these, psychological, philosophical principles could have been, we could have spoken about them 1,000 years ago. So I was like, it's quite timeless. And I've always been about the mindset through my psychology degree. So I sort of put two and two together and I called it timeless mindset. And I think that the power I see in creating a timeless mindset is you're developing all these skills that you can use for the rest of your life. It's like having this like library of wisdom inside your own mind, having a toolkit to pull on at different points. And yeah, there's been golden nuggets that I've drawn from every single conversation, but those two especially, Boris and Mitchell Vicarage, like so many elements of their teachings from the spiritual element are all about timeless, like creating a timeless mind.
Okay, cool. I love that, man. And I think we'll get into it within this podcast, but what I hear you speaking to and something that I've felt, in conversations with people, very intentional and long form conversations, and then on, retreats where, we're going deep and I feel like we're touching something that's ancient, that's a part of us. And it's like, and something that feels like, for the lack of a better word, like it just feels true. And yeah, truth is something I want to get into. But what's a belief you've changed your mind on in the last 2 years?
Oh, that's a great question. Because I think that's one of the most important skills in life. Like, because I'm quite young, and I think when you're young...
How old are you?
I'm 24.
Okay.
So when you're quite young, like even when I was like 18, 19, right? Like there's such a naivety to the world. I mean, we're always going to be naive to like the... total amount of knowledge that's in the world. But from a place of like, you don't really know what it's like to have different responsibilities or to be in a breakup or if you want to start a business, all these, experiences that you go through in life that make you see yourself and the world differently. And what was the question again?
What belief?
Oh yeah, beliefs. Yeah. So I would think it was probably beliefs about myself that I've sort of collapsed. And a lot of them have been through the DeMartini method. So like a lot of the beliefs are like, we hold the two main emotions that hold us back are shame and pride. So the shame element is like things that I'm scared of the world seeing in me. And then pride is being like things that I think I have that others don't. And you can't have shame without pride and you can't have pride without shame. So like, if someone's quite prideful in one element of their life, they will always have hidden shame in their life. That's what the DeMartini attests to, and I've had that in my life. And the same for reverse. When people have shame in their life, there'll be something in their life that they have pride with, because we have these homeostatic stabilizing forces inside our psyche to level ourselves internally. And the DeMartini is about collapsing that so we can see ourselves in reality.
Okay.
And and you're probably thinking, well, pride might not be a negative thing, but then we also have shame as well, and we don't see reality clearly. So, for example, for myself, like I had a lot of pride about, how intelligent I was when I was, growing up. I mean, you have pride in that, but then I had shame in other areas of my life, whether it was like around money or you start identifying through intelligence. There's always these downsides to, what we show the world. So what belief has I changed? One of the hardest things I found about what beliefs you change is when you change, you're often unconscious to the change because it happens quite, because when something goes out of your awareness and it becomes a part of who you are now, like you've got a new belief, it's not like you get a letter from your belief system, your subconscious mind, and says, hey, your belief has changed. You're now confident in yourself. It's a slow, gradual process where you start to see yourself differently, you start to see the world differently. And those beliefs that control our reality can take time to change. Yeah. And sometimes they can change in one moment. But I don't know. I don't think we're as aware of our beliefs as we often think we are.
For sure, yeah. I think it's an interesting process. I remember so I was vegan for 6 years, and then I just started to realize that I felt like I was living half truths. I was like, no, I'm healthy. This is the right thing to do. And then obviously there's the reasons as well to why people go vegan, like the environment and animal welfare. But I didn't feel healthy. Like I felt healthy when I initially went into a vegan diet, and then, and I was coming from a bad Western diet, eating a lot of takeaway food and stuff. And then, after a long period of time, like my digestion wasn't good, and I felt lethargic. I felt like my mental clarity wasn't there. And then going through the emotional process of like unwinding that and starting to eat animal products again was slow. And like I would question it all the time. And I've come to realize that it's healthy to question it, not to just like switch your belief like that. It was, but it just was a slow unraveling. And even times now I'm like, even though I'm like very much a meat eater, I still am like, I don't know about that. Do you know what I mean? So that's cool.
It's important to have negative thinking, and that's one thing that DeMartini is really good at. It's like negative thinking can be such a stabilizing force in our life, but we're in the Western world now where we want to remove challenge, suffering, struggling, and we have this part of our psychology that stabilizes us that we need. Like to be cynical and skeptical of the world, to not just accept the beliefs and truths and narratives that people are pushing onto us. We need that skepticism, and that's one of the greatest parts of my podcast, is trying to allow people to have a space for that inside their mind. But I think the problem is we're so attached to our beliefs now.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I spoke about this before, but like we think we are our beliefs.
Yeah.
And here's my question for you. Like when you're born, right, when you're come out of the womb, are you worthy? Are you a worthy human being at that point in time?
Define worthy.
Well, like, are you meaningful, special? Are you something? Are you somebody? Are you who you are? Like,
yes.
Okay, then. So you have zero beliefs onto you right then, right? You got no beliefs put onto you. Your mind is blank canvas at that point in time. Your brain doesn't have an understanding.
The moment you're born, you come into the world. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if we are a blank canvas.
Well, I believe we have a soul, but let's say in the absence of the soul, right, and our brain doesn't have any beliefs about who we are, you're willing to say then we're worthy.
Yes.
In the absence of beliefs. So then if you're worthy in the absence of beliefs, and then now 30 years later when you got all these beliefs, we think that our beliefs make us worthy. We've identified ourselves through our political party that we believed in, left, right, pro this, anti this. And that's the problem with our world, is we've got all of this pride. I want the world to see me a certain way. I am a vegan. I care about things. We're trying to push this one-sided part of our psychology because we want people to see us as one thing.
For sure. Well, that's the ego, right?
It's the ego.
Yeah.
And the DeMartini is all about collapsing the ego to see that what I have in me, you have as well.
Yeah.
Because a lot of and I was in the car, I was thinking, what are we going to talk about? And I wanted to bring this example up.
Yeah.
And I was like, if we walked around and everyone could see 10 minutes of our most vulnerable, lowest moments, maybe it was embarrassing or shameful, and everyone walked around with it, initially you'd be like, oh my God, I'm going to feel so much shame. It would collapse shame instantly because we would all realize everyone's fucking faking it. And everyone's putting on a show, and everyone doesn't have it figured out, and we're all naive to the reality of this world. And that's the humbling process that allows us to not hold ourselves back, because that's what holds us back.
Yeah, I completely agree, man. I think that's just a part of the journey of growing up, and I don't know if it's something that is associated with the Western world only. I wonder in other like Eastern philosophies or other cultures whether that's so prominent. It feels that it's prominent in the Western world, but I feel like that's a journey that you go on where you sort of, there's this unraveling and understanding that life is just very, very grey, you know, and we're all struggling, and we all have our demons and our not so favourable side that comes out. And yeah, the more that we can see that in other people and understand that it's widespread in humanity, then of course we just become more empathetic as a whole.
Oh, both ways. Yeah. Like we put people on pedestals and then hold ourselves back. But we also, we have pride And I think it's important. There's so much, like, you'd have to really explore. This is a conversation better to have with Mitchell Vickridge. I only know a tiny bit of it, but for doing some of his work and deep diving into it, like it's powerfully changed, and I can be a strong testimonial. It's powerfully changed how I see myself. We've gone back, so I can give you an example of what you do. So you can go back to past experiences, and what happens at a point in time is we go into our amygdala, which is the fear center of our brain, and it has two primal parts where it's going towards prey or away from predator. So it splits. And what happens is, let's say, I'll take you back to the example that we went through. So there was a point in school, I was always the big dog in primary school, academic, good at sport, had a lot of pride, a lot of pride. And that kept me back from relating to people. I was arrogant, blah, blah, blah. And there was a point in a 100-meter school race, and everyone was cheering against me, against this one guy. So I felt like at that point in time, it was me against the whole world. And that had been this, like, a belief beliefs get created from moments. And those beliefs that get created will hold us back in life. Fear of conflict, fear of, people are judging me. And I had a one-sided recall of what that event was. Because what happens is when we go into our amygdala, we only see one side of the story. And the DeMartini is about going back and seeing the whole truth, seeing the other side of the story. And we were able to go back. I was able to immerse myself in the experience. And he was asking me, because the DeMartini's all about asking these very precise, systematic questions. So it's quite logical. And I was able to go back and I was able to see all these people who were actually supporting me, from, like dad, a good friend I had, grandmother who wasn't even alive, but was guardian angel, whatever. Like, I had everything sort of balanced, and I was able to list out the benefits. How were those people helping me? And, they were helping me be more humble. They were helping me connect, helping me realize that my identity isn't sport.
Yeah.
So everything was balanced, and I was able to find balance. You have a tear of gratitude. It stabilizes. And then now I didn't fully go through the whole process because it can take a long time. But what happens is that belief that can get created from that point in time can start to let go and relinquish. Because what happens is that starts to control us, because that belief is how we filter through the world. So we have 170 plus cognitive biases. And if we have thousands of memories which are distorted perceptions where we only see one side, we're going to seek to recreate those experiences again. The whole world's against me. And it limits us. So the DeMartini is about going back to the past. And if you can go back and do some of those big moments, man, and I haven't even had a very traumatic thing, but even that, and I've done a few other ones, it's been powerful shift in how I see myself, how I see the world, because you start seeing reality. You don't start seeing this split of reality, which happens when we're in our amygdala, because we want to be the victim. We want people to feel sorry for us because we identify as, and then the other flip side, we want the pride. We want people to see how good we are when things are going well. So it's a stabilization process of both ends. And then you're stable, you're grounded, you're humble, and that's where love meets, when you integrate both sides.
I love what you're saying there, and there's a line of thought. I think it's more through like a Jungian lens of like, you're going to continually keep repeating these patterns on a more amplified scale, where you're going to where on the surface you'll be like, oh my God, I'm the victim, but actually the manifestation of it in reality is it's becoming so amplified because it's trying to teach you something, right?
Life will give you exactly what you need.
Yeah.
And it will keep knocking at the door until you're ready to listen.
What I'm interested in is like what I've in the last probably even a couple of years, but let's just say 6 months, like a lot, is trying to understand things for what they truly are meaning, and not just like the surface level meaning.
I'm obsessed with that.
Yeah, same.
I'm trying to make a career out of it.
And I think, there's a section that I want to go into about that, with just looking at dream analysis through like a Jungian lens and stuff like that. Have you heard the phrase, if you see a Buddha on the road, kill him?
No.
Do you know what it means?
If you see a Buddha on the road, do you just mean like a random street, like Marmion Avenue?
Whatever. Yeah. Like it's like if you see a Buddha on the road, like kill him or hit him, like run him over.
That's super interesting.
Yeah.
I could attack this from a few lenses. If you see a Buddha on the road, kill him. One thing that comes straight to mind is that like it could be imaginary. I don't know what's the.
So from my understanding of the phrase, it means, and it kind of relates to what we spoke about, which is why I brought it up, is we have these people we put on pedestals, role models, mentors, but there needs to come a time when we let them go and we move past them to create our own like version of reality or our own thought around it. We can't just solely, the Buddha has these teachings, and we should spend time understanding these teachings from the Buddha, but there'll come a time when we need to, that's enough. Like we need to.
That's what I mean.
Go out on our own.
Yeah, that's what I mean with the imaginary thing, because it's like when we put people on pedestals, it's a figment of our imagination right?
Or it's a manifestation of something that we know exists within us.
That's the inspiration part, and the Demartini always talks about that. Like inspiration is in spirit; it's a part of you. When someone inspires you, it's a heart calling. Yeah, and then motivation is external because our ego's gripping to what we think we have to do.
I love that, and I always tell people, and I'm acutely aware of like what am I envious of, because usually that's a sign of what I actually want or what I see within myself and know what I am capable of.
Do you think there's a discernment between what you want coming from a place of lack to recreate a subconscious belief? Because like some people inspire me, and then some people I look at them and there's like a different feeling. It's like a feeling of emptiness inside of me, and I'm like, oh my God, if I had that thing, it would satiate that part of myself. Whereas some people inspire me, and I'm like, the way they're doing that is fucking. I want a bit of that.
For sure, yeah. And it comes back to what we spoke about when you had me on the podcast. I think is like discerning whether it's coming from a place of fear or love. You know what I mean? Like, and learning to discern, is that something that truly resonates with me? And you're not going to get it right all the time, and you're going to have to go down the path, and you're going to be like, actually, this is not what I want to do. You know what I mean? And then you get more clear and more clear. Okay. Last little question before we get into who Egan is. But if you had to define timeless mindset in 1 minute, how would you?
Timeless mindset in 1 minute. It's a way of living, really.
Yep.
And it's about bringing this library of wisdom that the world has to offer and using it through our mind, which is the most powerful tool we have to live in the most optimized way possible. So it's bringing knowledge, which is the accumulation of everything that we can be aware of in this world, and using wisdom, which is knowing when to apply that knowledge to create the most meaningful life possible for ourselves. And you can do it in timeless. You could do it 10,000 years ago. You could do it 100,000 years. It's the principles, it's the foundations, it's the psychology, it's the philosophy, it's the way you live and see yourself and see the world that is at the foundation of a good life.
I love it, man. Clearly, because we're in love with the same format, and I think at the heart of what we want to do is, we'll get into it.
Okay,
so
sounds good.
You've heard me say this before, but I want you to just tell me who Egan is, and you can answer that in any way that you like.
It's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
I always think like, who am I? I find it's easier to know who I'm not. Right? Like it's so hard to define what I am. Like I could say what I do. Oh, I've played footy. I wanted to be an AFL player. I coach a footy side, and you can really identify with, what I do. I do podcasting, and and the thing is, what you do, when you look at what you do, there's often the essence of who you are is usually expressed by what you do in the human form. But it's so easy to fuse the understanding of who you are with what it manifests materially as, when it's actually like the fabric of who I am is sort of woven into the material stuff. And it's really hard to pull apart what is it in that I like, because sometimes when we do something, it's from a place of lack. But then also within that same pursuit is a little bit of gold. And it's like, do we have a process of discernment to be able to pick out, what is really authentic versus what is just like a pain point? So for me, like, who am I? I just... Like I got that tattoo on my chest, right? Sapir Ord, and it's called Dare to Know. It's from Immanuel Kant, the philosopher, and it means dare to know or dare to be wise. The courage to use your own reasoning. That's a big part of who I am. Is challenging what we've been told for the betterment of our world. And I think, who am I? I'm here to give people a new way of thinking and seeing themselves in the world. And I think that can empower you in whatever way that looks like. That brings me the most meaning, because I know for me that's what I was deprived of at different points in my upbringing, right? Like I I was very chaotic, emotional. I had no idea who I was, and there's a lot of stuff you could get into.
Yep.
But and then there was the COVID stuff when the whole world was against me and what I believed in, and many times was bullied, ostracized, and I was like, how can the world be how it is? So it's often our voids. I'm gonna keep repeating DeMartini.
Yeah.
But it's our voids. So what we don't get in our childhood, what we get too much of or too little of. So what our voids are, they drive our values, and I value the things that I was deprived of, which was a deep understanding of who I am and why the world is the way it is. And that's what I want to give to people, because I think that's at the core of a really harmonious society, but also genuine fulfillment. If you know who you are, and you don't have to be able to like pinpoint it with like, here are my 3 principles of Egan Brooks. I am dedicated, I am hardworking, and I'm an intellect.
Yeah.
It's like, no, there's no point over trying to define yourself. Like, I used to be obsessed with bios and Instagram, right? Trying to like capture who I am. Now I don't even care. It's like, I'm a podcaster, so what? Like, doesn't matter. But like, there's the human, there's what I do, and then there's who I am, which is sort of woven into what I do.
I think it's a really hard question to answer, and I think we're so multidimensional and far more expansive than we even really understand or realize. And but I love to start things off with that. What are your thoughts on nature versus nurture? Like, do you think we just come out when we're born, we have a personality?
Well, from when I was studying psychology, right, a lot of the research showed that what we're born with, it can create sort of ceilings. So like we have sort of this genetic potential, but then there's this field called epigenetics, which is how our nurturing affects our genetics and how that changes the expression. And I think that's more evolved than we think. We've minimized that, like from what we eat, the diet we consume. So from what we eat, what we consume digitally, like the information. There's a massive role in psychology and like what we think, who we are, the belief system. It's a massive. I think there's both.
Yeah, I agree.
Right? Like I think it's a mixture of both. What percentage? I think it changes depending on what specific thing you're talking about. Like if it's like, if you're talking about athleticism and speed, it might be a different effect to like some other component. But I think we are way more capable of evolving and changing than we think we are. I think most people think their fate is determined by their genetics, and I think that's only going to hold them back when you think about it. Even if it's not true, it's better to believe that you can change. And every single book that I've read on the research has proven that your capacity to change, everyone underrates their capacity to change.
I completely agree. Is it true that after the age of 25, it's much harder to have behavioral change? Is that true?
Well, the male brain's meant to stop developing after 25, but
that's the prefrontal cortex, right?
Yeah.
Development of.
Yeah, but I
you still got one more year.
Yeah, this is good. Of course, it's going to be harder because we're less suggestible to change, and now we're still developing. But then again, I think there are ways we can, if we want to talk at like what's the most efficient way to substantiate behavioral change. Like, there's so many methods and tools that can help you speed track, fasten that process, right? Like it would be individual, because some people are addicted to certain things because of the addiction to the identity, and you could take them through the DeMartini. Like, I've had testimony, like Mitchell, for example, he came on, he's had people who've gone to therapy for 20 years. You do a DeMartini process and all their addictions or a certain addiction, right, gone. Because a lot of us are just unconscious to what we're doing, why we're doing it. We get so many benefits from the things that we're doing, and we say, oh, I'm self-sabotaging, but we get so many subconscious payoffs. And when we become aware of that, it's really hard to ignore, and it starts to change how we see. And the behaviors often change automatically because we become way more aware. But yeah, can we change after 25? Is it harder? I'd say, yeah, it's a lot harder because they're just the repetitions in the brain the volume of repetitions is a lot higher, but like I said, your ability to change is much higher than you think. Yeah,
I completely agree. If you were to give yourself, what are the formal titles associated with what you do as Egan?
What do you mean? Like
so you psychologist, podcaster.
Oh yeah. Oh, podcaster.
Yeah.
I like when Peter Crone calls himself the mind architect.
Okay, cool.
That's cool because he's designing like how people think. There's something in that I really like. Like I love thinking. And we can go into the conversation of overthinking. And it has its downsides, and there are times when I need to let go. But yeah, I'm a coach technically because I coach a footy side.
Cool.
Podcaster, coach. I don't know. I really don't care, to be honest. Like, you know, you could call me hero, or you could call me, because once again, like, why do I want to be seen as that? Like, why I used to care, right? I used to care like what people would perceive me as, right? But what's that going to matter in 150 years, right?
Yeah.
It's about the impact that you make on people, how you live. People remember how you live, not what your title was, right? Like, I think about this because Hormozy, all these people have influenced how I think. But like at my funeral in, you know, let's say 100 years, I'm optimistic about. That's what, and people are speaking about me. What do I want them to say? Do I want them to say like, "Oh, Egan Brooks, such a good guy. He never rocked the boat." Like, I want them to think he inspired me to think differently, and he made me create a life that was more meaningful to me. If that could be in more people's memory of me, my life would be a success.
And you think then, however best you're able to do that, whatever format, you'll go towards that?
I think the biggest misconception that I had, we talked about beliefs before, and this is just coming to me now. One of the beliefs I had is everyone has to live the same way. Like, I had such a bias of like how I see the world. Everyone has to think and do the same things. Everyone has to train as much as I think training's important. Everyone has to eat the same way I think, because that was the pride. That was the shame of, there was other shame there that was forcing that pride to come to the surface, because I was like, everyone needs to be like, everyone needs to mold around me. And that was the naivety of myself. But I don't know. I've definitely changed that belief, but it's all about, you know, everyone's got different values, right? Because everyone's had different voids, everyone's had different upbringings, and it's all about, you can use that same principle of I'm trying to get people to think differently to live their life in the best way possible. And that can, whatever it looks like. I used to be so fixated on like, it has to look like this, and I think I know what's best for you. Anytime someone tells you they know what's best for you, they're full of shit.
Where do you think the want to have everybody believe like you comes from? You know, like, you have to, you know, this is the best diet, this is the best way to train, this is the best way to live.
Oh, it's out of fear. It's always out of fear.
Yeah.
Like, conditioning wise, like, I was always successful in terms of like, I was really academic, perform well, and I thought my worth was tied to that. So I almost felt like that was who I was. Like, I know what success looks like, so you have to listen to me. But once again, I was thinking about what I was going to say, and I was like, it's really hard to go back into the past sometimes without someone holding you accountable to that, and like isolate what caused me to be like that. Because there's a multitude of factors, like, right, like how my parents raised me, what environments I was in, like that led to me having that pride, certain memories that can create beliefs. Like, there's a multitude of factors that make someone turn into have that personality. And yeah, I think over time, this is why D Martini, again, it's so helpful, because you get humbled. Life will humble you. If you have pride, life will humble you. And that's what happened to me. I got humbled many times. And I think that's what I mean when I was 18. I thought, I know what's best for everyone. You get humbled and you realize, yeah, I don't know everything, and I don't know what's best for everyone. And that's beautiful. I'd rather have the courage to put myself out there and fail and not get it right than be the guy in the grandstand, you know, criticizing everyone.
For sure. Yeah. I think it's, you know, that simple line of thought, like, the more you know, the more you come to like know about the world, the more you realize you don't know about everything. I butchered that, but
no, it's true.
What I'm saying.
The more you know, the less you know.
Exactly.
It's so true.
Exactly. Well, look, you seem to be very much leaning into this journey of podcasting, and it's beautiful to see, and it's inspiring. I'm curious to know, like, how this journey came about. You know, where did it start, and you know, what's it been like coming to this point now?
It's been a long journey. Someone asked me that question the other day on a podcast when I was interviewing someone, and it's like, I feel like it's mapped my own personal journey, man. It's been a vessel for self-growth. So I started it at the end of 2022. I'd done a psych degree for like 6 months. It was sort of near the back endish of COVID, but that left me with a lot of questions about myself and the world. and that led me to the psych degree. And then with footy was my thing, man. Like I love footy. It was my identity. And I was the biggest overthinker. Like it always held me back because it took so much energy up, man. Like thinking about, how I was going to be at training. So it was football was a big stressor. It was my biggest love, but it was the biggest stressor because it was my identity. I thought if I didn't make this team, like it's crazy when I look back and I go, who gives a fuck, Egan? Who gives a fucking doesn't matter. But without such an over-identification with the ego, I probably wouldn't be able to see when other people are so identified with something that doesn't really matter. Because sometimes I see people and they care so much about something, but it's not because it's because they're scared. They're fearful that if they don't have this thing, they're not going to be worthy. That's not love. That's fear. And for me, I didn't want to, and I was building my life from fear. And man, when you build your life from fear, like it can take you places. Like it made me get to the waffle and play reserves, and I was, I improved a lot, but I never really loved it. And then it begs the question, what's the point? So, COVID left me with a lot of questions. So I did but the real premise for starting the podcast was I wanted to learn from athletes initially because I wanted to overcome this pain point, and also I was copying like Dylan Friends, who was a footy podcaster. And I was like, oh yeah, this would be cool. Big move because I was like 21, 22. And when I look back, it's pretty cringe what I was doing, but you've got to climb the Cringe Mountain.
You do.
And yeah, it started the journey, and it's been a long one. But then again, I'm probably going to look back in 10 years and this will probably be chapter 1 of chapter 6. So everything's relative to time, and you just got to embrace the journey. It's cliche, but I wouldn't have it any other way when I look back.
I think cliches exist for a reason. Did you say cliche? You said Cringe Mountain?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think this is a really interesting topic, and I'd love to just go into it for a second. Talk to me about the Cringe Mountain, because I think doing cringy things, and of course you associate this with fear, but cringe is a really good way to describe it, because there's a lot of things in life that people want, but they're too scared to get on camera, or they're too scared to look back at their first podcast, and of course it's going to be cringeworthy, right? So talk to me a little bit about that. And maybe as if you were talking to somebody who's fearful of being cringe.
What I would say, like, I'll pretend I'm talking to myself when I just started, because I know what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Doesn't fucking matter. No one's watching. And time will pass so much quicker than you think, but the changes in yourself from doing the thing will create the person you always wanted to become. And I will look back at who I am now and say, speaking with this conviction is turning me into the person I want to become. It's going to be ups and downs. There's going to be times where you feel the weight of the world against you and that the judgment. And there's going to be times where you feel invincible and you're going to learn so much about yourself. But there is no other way to become the person you want to become than to do the thing. So, and the reason I think it's so social media and putting yourself out there is such a good, it sort of replicates, our biggest fear is what people think of us, right? And that's what social media is. It's like, here's me, accept me, please like me. And that's what it's like. And if you don't go through that process of like, and the good question I would ask myself back then is like, what are you scared of them seeing in you? What are you scared of the world thinking and seeing about you? If you can get really clear on that. Because for me, it was, I knew I could pinpoint what I was scared of them saying, right? Like, that I'm a nobody. Like I'm a fucking, look at this loser. He's dumb. He's not a man. He's this, he's that. Like, and he isn't worthy of doing this thing. And it's like, who's worthy of doing anything? This is what I mean with the thinking. Like, we just accept all of these beliefs about who's ready to do what in life when you've just got to start. And I know it's like, it sounds really simple, but starting is so hard and easy at the same time. That's why a podcast was good, because it's such a good excuse, like, because I got to like interview people and it was like I was building connections with people. But I think if I was giving someone else advice, it would probably make a commitment that you can't get out of, because I feel like when you start a podcast and you're interviewing people, like you're sort of committed to that. A lot of people do stop podcasts, but you set yourself a goal. This is a good one. So I set myself a goal of 30 podcasts, and that was my goal. So I'll just do 30, whatever. And by the time I hit 30, man, it was never going to stop. But most people, I think it was only 1% of podcasts make it past 20.
Yeah.
So it's like, if I just get to 30, man, I'm in the top 1%, baby.
Yeah.
So even if it's 30 days of posting a 1 minute video, there's many people doing that challenge. After you've done a certain amount, you realize no one gives a fuck. You survived, and you can keep going and trying. And yes, there's going to be people judging you, man. Like the amount of judgment I had on my podcast, because I was a different version of myself. Like there was parts of me, like when we talk about the pride, I was telling people how to be, and like I was very like, this is what you got to do. And I had friends telling me, these people saying this behind my back, and at the time that was really tough. Fucking oath. But without that, it wouldn't lead to the changes in me that I'm most proud of, because of, that's what I mean. Like you can't fake it. You've got to go through the experience. It's just, how bad do you want your life to be this way? Like when you have this vision of who do you want to be, if you don't have that true calling for it, you will settle.
Yep.
And I think a lot of people say they want things, but they're not willing to pay the price for it.
Yeah, 100%. I completely agree. I think it's worthy to take on an adventure that will pull you out of yourself. And I had a really lovely moment recently where, after doing something cringe, you could say, I saw the tangible growth in myself. So the thing was that I was doing online coaching, and the guy was like, I need you to film the things that you're doing and I was going to a public gym, going to Revo. So I had this exact camera stand, and I'd have my phone there, and I would put it up, and I was like, this fucking makes me feel super uncomfortable. Everybody in the gym is going to be like, who's this fucking guy? Blah, 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 blah. I did it anyway, right? And I was excited, and I'd come to a place where I was like, I'm ready to take on this challenge. Anyway, so I did that for a while, and felt, as comfortable as I could be with that. And then the other day, I was waiting at the airport for my partner and my son to come back, and I just found myself setting the camera stand up, putting my phone out right in front of everybody, like as high as it would go. And I was just like, I don't have nearly as much fear as I used to doing this. And it was a really beautiful moment. And I think a lot of what we want in life is on the other side of cringy moments.
And it's hard to track personal growth. One of the only times you become aware is when you're in the same situation as you were before, and you see how your behavior was different.
Exactly. And it's because I was in that position before when I met them once before.
Exactly. Same conditions, new behavior. That's what growth is defined as, simply. And that's what we're trying to optimize for, right? Like to change our experience of life.
For sure.
And that, man, the Cringe Mountain one's an interesting one.
I love it.
Because look, at the end of the day, when you break down cringe, right?
Yeah.
It's just obviously a fear of how someone's going to perceive you. And I think when you become okay, and look, I'm not fully there, so I'm not trying to be some enlightened being here. I still feel judgment. But like when you realize it's all about, did you see the post the other day when I was like, boo, Egan? Okay. So when you realize when someone has a distaste of you, someone doesn't like you, someone judges you, they might use these horrific insults. These, I had it the other day. Someone's like, you're transphobic, you're blah, blah, because I said this one thing. And you gotta simplify it to like, boo, Egan, you live your life in a way I do not prefer. It's that simple. It's like an expression of emotion, boo, Egan. And it's like,
I love that.
Yeah, I'm okay with it. Like,
I heard Joe Rogan talk about this the other day. He had Ethan Hawke on, and they were talking about how it's easy to fall down the trap of like reading the comments. They're both very famous people. And then Joe was talking to one of his comedian friends, apparently, well-known comedian friend, and he was saying that the comedian friend went down a Reddit rabbit hole just all about like himself, and he's like, it destroyed him. And then Joe was just like, no, those people don't hate you, they hate themselves. And he's like, they hate themselves. Like, so like, of course some of it's true. Like there's obviously criticism, and it's important to be aware of that. And that's why I think the internal self-critic is important. But like, yeah, he's just like, they hate themselves, you know, and I think that's exactly what, you know, you were just describing there as well.
It's because we all want to, it's easier for something on the outside, the external environment, to be wrong, different, not good enough, than to look inside and be like, it's actually me, good or bad. Like when we criticize someone else, right? Like it's still, and this is where I've found that very interesting of late. Like because I used to be really hard on myself when I was critical of others. Like I'd observe behavior, and I think this is where you got to be able to observing behavior and being like, that's interesting. Because I've done that a lot recently. Sometimes I'll send me and Jack do it a few times. I send a message about someone's thing. I'm interesting. And it's not from a place of, we're so philosophical and we love talking about this thing. Because we're always like, why do people do what they do? Why do they think what they do?
Yeah.
And it's not from like a place of like judgment, like they're a bad person. But we start to think, okay, what is it underneath this behavior? Because that's the juicy stuff. That's what's interesting to me. And I used to think I'd be so reserved, like, do you know when you go to like make a comment or observation about someone, you're like, I'm not trying to be judgmental, and it's like we preemptively, and it's like, man, you're not being judgmental. You're making an observation. Like you can have an observation that isn't like this.
Well, here's a question: is can there be a healthy amount of judgment?
Yeah, for sure.
Judgment, I think, is seen as this really bad thing, but it's like it's important to judge people.
We need judgment. We need discernment, and I think when you realize that your judgments are going through your own bias, that's the opportunity for growth. Because I think if you remove the judgment, you remove the entryway to growth.
For sure.
Because like when you're judging someone, sometimes I start asking myself, I'll judge someone, I'll feel it. Instead, because sometimes we try and suppress that. Yeah. There goes the ticket way to figuring out why you think something. Because I go, interesting. Why did I think that person was super cringe then? And then I go, because that was a past version of me and I was scared of this and blah, blah. And you can actually start to dissect why you think. And that's the entryway to more introspection and growth.
Growth, yeah, for sure. What would people misunderstand about you if they only knew you through the show?
They're probably that I'm more serious than I am. Dude, my podcast is like sometimes my brother and dad, who are like super not into this stuff.
Yeah.
They think I'm this like, they think like, oh, your podcast will grow if you become hell funny and you become like a comedian. I'm just like, it's not my show. That's not the purpose. Like people have different parts of themselves. Like I think a lot of us have this thinking side, this philosophical side of like, how do I optimize my life? Like, why do I have the life I have? And I think I like to cater towards those people.
For sure.
But I do have such a playful, fun side. My girlfriend probably sees it the most because that's when I'm able to like sort of let go of like the busyness of life.
Yeah.
But yeah, people probably think I'm way more. I find it hard to find a clip where I'm laughing or life is fun. But like, no, I'm super laid back. A lot of my clips probably me just like getting all deep and philosophical, bro. But I'm chill, man.
I love that, man. Yeah. I think it's so interesting how we put ourselves out there and on a certain format, and then obviously people are going to have this perspective of you and not going to have the whole story. That
held me back for a while as well because I was so scared to be the serious guy because I was like, I have to try. Oh, that's a bit too serious, that post.
Yeah.
And I was scared because I wanted people to see me as this like well-rounded person. And look, it'll be nice when I can find ways to put that in there. But at the end of the day, like, I always talk about, I don't want to be the prisoner of my own perception. Like, I don't care what people think, if you know, in the sense of like, if they see me as this serious guy, it's like all the power to them. Like, so what?
No pun intended, but when did it get serious for you, the podcast?
Serious? Probably 6 weeks ago was when it was serious.
Yeah.
Like there's like.
Talk to me about that. What was the change and how has it looked more serious?
It's interesting because there's times when we say like we're going to do something and we don't. And we sabotage ourselves in the sense of we're like, well, why'd I do that? And there's always a benefit we get, right? And I've done that many times where I've half committed to the podcast. I did 2 podcasts a week for like 40 weeks and it didn't really grow that much. And when I look back, I'm like, it's really clear to see why, like the guests I was interviewing, the clips and there's another conversation there. But I think it got serious when I realized and I'm not old, but like I'm getting to a point in my life where it's like, I'm either making this thing happen or, you know, cause I played victim a lot of it, of my story with the podcast. And I got serious when 2 events happened. One was when we put down my dog because I haven't had that grief, that reminder of my, you know, even our conversation, man, like when you were talking about your sister, that was like a big reminder again, like with grief and it's like the shortness of life. And I think I was just stuck in that pattern of like, it'll happen. It won't fucking happen. It will not fucking happen unless you make it happen. And that's what, when we put down our dog and we had that conversation, those two sort of fused on a timeline together. I was like, I'm going to die one day. And that hit me. And I was like, it's now or never, baby. It's now or never, baby. And I said, this is the elimination of all. Hormozy says commitment is the elimination of all alternatives. And I said, this podcast is going to be my thing. So I was like, hey, I'm going to go on a tour, go to Melbourne, 2 episodes a week. Now it's high quality guests. I've got to reach out more. I've got to ask more people. I've got to lean on my network more. And that's what I'm doing now. And then I went up to 3 episodes a week recently, and I'm like, I'm just going to commit better thumbnails, better titles, better guests, better reels. Got my editor, and I'm just going to apply this process until it happens. Things are happening on the side, and I'm not here talking from the top of Mount Success. It's not like there. Yeah. But in terms of when it got serious, it was like 6 weeks ago. I was like, no, I'm getting on if I don't make it happen. Look, I could probably fucking half-ass it for another 5 years, but I don't want to. I want to empower myself. I want to have responsibility. And I think for men, that's super, super important to like take on responsibility. And I took on the responsibility for my own life, which is like, I want to be a leader in my relationship. And how can I do that if I'm not having a successful career and I can't actually provide any money? I'm just working a part-time job. I'm spending half my time not even earning anything. It's like, okay, make this, you want to do the podcast, fucking make it happen. And I was playing victim mode for so long. And that's where the DeMartini, because every time I slip into victim mode, I just ask myself the question.
Talk to me about how the victim mode showed up within the podcast, because obviously this has shown up in my own life. So I'm curious about it.
Well, it's the thing of like, oh, I've done 150 episodes. It should be successful. Okay. But then I look at the guests I was getting on, and, you know, some of them really good, but some of them are like, they don't have followings. The clips were shit. The production wasn't that good. Conversations weren't that interesting. It's not really going to go anywhere. And that's the brutal honesty you need to make change, is you need to be really clear about, look at the best. What do they do? And how can I do that? And even if you replicate 80% of it, you're going to make massive inroads. And for me, I was slipping the victim mode of like, I'm owed it. Because I think a lot of my childhood, I was given a lot, very privileged. And I think I had this like subconscious thing of like, it's just going to happen. I'm owed it.
Yeah.
And yeah.
That's the pride, right?
It's the pride, man. Yeah. It's like, I'm entitled to this. And I'm like, nah, that's not true.
It's funny, Alex, I think I spoke about this before with you, but Alex Hormozy says this thing, because I think we attach our pride to morality, like good and bad. And Hormozy said, it doesn't matter if you're a good person or a bad person. If you do the work, you're going to be successful. And it was just so freeing for me. It's not like I want to be a bad person, but I was just like, oh, I just need to do the work. Like, being moral, like, has nothing. Well,
because you argue that. It's because you probably have a subconscious association that being good means you're going to be successful, which could be driven by the fear of not being a good person. Maybe your parents were super, you know, religious, and they were constantly saying the injunction of this is good, and the conditioning of your parenting was this. There's a reason
for sure
that you think you've created an association that being good will entitle you to success in whatever you do.
A big part, I think a huge bottleneck for me, what I've been slowly like working through is I just want to be liked by everybody. And so there's a sense of like, it's not a reality. Of course, some people are not going to like me, and I have to get okay with criticism. And the more that I put myself out there and I do this format, and like everything that you look at my life, I'm consistently putting myself out there, whether it's in front of hundreds of people to do public speaking or podcasting and stuff like that. And it terrifies me. And so there's a part of that I would attach to some moral complex of like, oh no, I just want to be a good person and everybody likes me. But if I choose my North Star of Jung saying like, it's better to be whole than good, you know, which I really resonate with, then I need to put myself out there and not care what being good means.
Is a good person the one who tells their friend, you know, you can do better and gives them honest feedback, or is the good friend the one who lies and comforts them in the short term? What is a good person?
Yeah, I would say that a good person is not the latter, it's the first.
And we all want to be the one who soothes people because it makes us feel like we're doing the right thing.
Yeah, we're putting them out of their misery, but actually we're creating their own hell. Yeah, it's an interesting one. I want to get into the craft, man. So take me through your process, like guest idea, research, recording, and then like publishing.
Well, it's obviously changed a lot recently. Do you want to know like where I start, how I've evolved, or like what it's like now with like what's my process now?
I want to know now. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, I think logically, I'm like, okay, if I want to grow the show, it's good that they have followers. It's useful because they've got a somewhat engaged audience, and followers doesn't equate to engaged audience. It's something you'll learn.
Yep.
Like, someone might have 500K, but not many people really care about listening to them. Someone might have 30K and they're super interesting and they have all these people who like what they say.
Yep.
So I find like the triage is like good amount of followers just because sustainable growth of the podcast. Interesting in terms of it's valuable to what the show's all about. So the conversation, the area of expertise is aligned to what I'm all about. And the third one, maybe I just get good vibes from them, right? Like they might be super, and I'm not saying I wouldn't interview people I don't agree with, but I don't, and in the future it may differ, but like sometimes I come across these people, I'm like, yeah, they're a pretty cool person. But some people I get the ick from, and I'm just like I don't really want to, I'm not going to,
Yeah, I totally understand,
But then, so those sort of 3 criteria, and then, just email them, message them, try and get them on somehow. I'm doing a lot more online interviews. I'll tell you who I'm interviewing. Is his book back there? I don't like throwing the gun in case it doesn't eventuate.
Throw it out there.
Do you know No More Mr. Nice Guy?
No.
Yeah, okay, it's a good book. You'll love that book.
Wait, I think I have heard No More Mr. Nice Guy. It's just about being a nice guy, basically.
Yeah,
right?
like how to overcome that. So I'm getting the author of that on.
Cool. Very cool.
Been on Modern Wisdom twice.
Really?
Yes.
Wow. I'm excited for you, man.
Yeah.
I do see a real, like, just to blow a bit of smoke up your ass, like I see a real change in the last 6 weeks and like how you're taking things to the next level, and it's beautiful to see. It's inspiring. So.
No, thanks, bro.
Yeah.
It's so what we're talking about, the research. Yeah. So I love 45 minutes worth of research.
Okay.
Depends what, like, am I going to take quotes from the Instagram, or everyone's different, but I like to do a bit of background, have a vision of where's the conversation going to go.
Yep.
I've been really focusing on making the conversation sort of single-minded. It's like when I had the astrology guy, I was like, what is astrology? How can we use it? What does it predict? And then we went a bit into conspiracy stuff, but it's like more single focus because people who are interested in that thing will stay for the whole conversation. And I think conversations that create emotion, like that's what, at the end of the day, when we talk about from the amygdala, most people live in their amygdala and we're either running away from fear or towards prey. So when you talk about, I had that clip. Did you see the clip of the astrologer?
I think I did watch it, but I saw you put up the thing on your close friends of like, it was a lot.
So
of
it had
shares.
780 shares, dude. It's close to 2,000.
Wow.
But because people, that creates fear.
Okay.
And interest, because what happened when you open a loop, people want to close the loop. What's going to happen? What does astrology say is going to happen? They want to know, right? Dive CEO is like the master at that. I don't have the editing for that yet. But it's all about
so dramatized.
Sometimes it's just a joke, but like it's fucking unbelievable editing.
Yeah.
But it's like if you create an emotion, you open a loop, and then it's like this episode, listening to it will be a part of making me feel something I want to feel, or close this loop inside my mind. So if I have that at the forefront of my mind when I'm writing titles, when I'm, I use a lot of AI to give me new ways of thinking.
Of course, yeah.
There's so many tools. Like, man, if I could do a 3-hour podcast on like the process from like filming, camera angles, sending to my editor, like it's nerdy stuff.
If you were just speaking to someone who wanted to just get started, what would you say to them about like just how to go about it?
Just focus on what matters, like moving the needle forward. So like, I've focused, and this is when I said victim mentality. I would spend an hour picking a font for a thumbnail or changing my bio. What moves the needle forward is obviously trying to get more followers, but like attention. Yep. So like, good clips. And obviously I got so much room to grow there, but it's like create engaging content. That's the number one thing. That's the top of the funnel to get people eyes on, and then converting. So like now I've got these systems where every new follower gets messaged and here's my podcast and the links. It's just like, it's all about getting attention, retaining it, and then, building personal brand so people know what you stand for and they resonate with that.
For sure.
Overcomplicating it. And like, I've had, when I started with the mics, it was in my brother's bedroom, had $30 mics I brought from a mate and just a laptop, recorded on the laptop, and there was no no videos for a while. And then I got better cameras and, you know, had one good camera for a while. My lighting was shit. Like everything just slowly improves. Yeah. And you got to embrace the journey where you're at. Do what is, you know, don't do what is like the most important thing, which is starting
the podcast,
and just,
right? Yeah. I had a moment where, I don't know if, I think I hadn't started the podcast, but it really propelled me forward. There's a guy in the movement world, he's a rehab specialist, and his name's David Gray Rehab. And I was listening to one of his podcasts, and he was just on holiday, and he was just recording it on his iPhone. And I was like, fuck, there is literally like, I've got no barriers. I can record a podcast right now on my iPhone and start. And I was just like, I can make up all the excuses in the world. Like, I need a camera, I need this mic, I need this, I need that. And it's just all bullshit. Like,
have you read Stephen Pressfield's The War of Art?
Yeah.
I'm like 70% finished, fucking masterpiece of like,
I need to reread it again.
Resistance, bro. The amount of like, it's
resistance,
it's like the thing of like doing the thing, all the excuses, all the rationalization. Oh, I'm not ready. Like everything is resistance. Oh, I need to, you know, get my morning steps on. I got to do this 4-hour routine. Yeah. And it's different to creating a good lifestyle. But this is what I measure myself every day on. Like, have I done what I need to do? Which is like, do the podcast. Like, have I recorded an episode or have I made clips? Have I done the thing? Like every day you focus on moving the needle forward. Yeah. So like I try and get minimum 1 clip and most times 2 clips a day. Nice. I do 3 episodes a week. You know, am I messaging people? Have I got like, it's like just every day, just do the thing. Don't fucking overcomplicate it. You don't need to get it perfect. Because what happens is you'll learn what is worth doing. You get the feedback. And the good thing about taking action is you get feedback. You learn from it. You don't get feedback when you hesitate.
No. Yeah. The only way you learn is through action, right? It's a paradox. How do you prepare without over-preparing?
I realized that in 100 conversations later and 100 episodes later, it doesn't really matter if it doesn't go to plan. But I also have really high standards in terms of like, I want it to be good. I want to be really good at it. But I also am in a point in my life where, you know, I'm coming home from a part-time job and I'm fucking getting a bit of food in and I'm late to the fucking thing and let's just start it. Yep. And because I know where I'm at in my journey. But I know that if I want to be good, I've got to have high standards. So I prepare well enough so I know the person, so I know how to connect with them. I know how to ask questions in a way. But then I always go from my own curiosity. And like, I know that when I ask questions, people are going to resonate because most of the people listening to the show think pretty similar. So I think, what am I going to actually learn from him? Not just like, sometimes I do ask questions that I know could make a good clip, right? But I also think, what do I want to learn from this person? Because at the premise of the shows, I want to learn as well. We learn together. All the listeners, we learn through these unique experts. So I keep that curiosity at the front of my mind. And to be honest, I don't even have to think about that. I'm just naturally curious. So I know that if someone has something I want to learn from, I'll dig in. Or it could be a super interesting exchange of ideas. Like, should we work harder or should we let go? When is it time to put on the accelerator and when is it time to hold back? How do we know? What are the signals, you know? So like, I love like, because I know that I don't have it figured out. And when you have that, because when you have the humbleness of knowing you haven't got it figured out, you can be curious. Most people have the pride of, you know, I have it figured out. So they don't ask questions. They're not curious. That's what prevents people from growing. It's the fear of not being good enough, which prevents them from doing the thing to make them actually successful and better. So like I said, with the pride, what's accelerated my growth was collapsing the pride. The part of me that thought he was better than what he was allowed me to realize I fucking got no idea, to take me on a journey to become better. And paradoxically, as I'm better, I think I'm less better, which makes me grow even more. So yeah, you've got to pair that with like an undercurrent of like, yeah, I know my worth, I know my value. Like, you got to be real with that. But if you don't pair that with like the humbleness and the naivety, like, you'll probably get really complacent. So like, I went through a period where I stopped reading, stopped learning. Dude, I'm obsessed with like getting my 20 to 30 minutes of reading a night and just, you know, reading fucking Buddhist philosophy and reading all the great authors, just everything, man, because I love it. And that's the thing. If you want to be sustainable, you don't want to quit, do something you love. How easy is that recipe when you actually love the thing? Because it's all worth it. If you're sacrificing all this thing for something you don't even love, there's no trade-offs. It's in the DeMartini, but at every point in time, you know, there's a calculation in our mind. We do something that we perceive will give us more advantages than disadvantages. When you love the thing and you have this vision of how it's going to improve your life, the advantages are always have so much more weight to them. So the sacrifice you're willing to pay is so much higher. So at the core of, if you love what you do and you have such a connection to your mission and maybe you're seeing that evolve, you're willing to pay the price of the Cringe Mountain. You're willing to not be good at the thing yet, but know that tomorrow is going to be an improvement. You know, even in this conversation today, like I could be hard on myself and be like, oh, I spoke too fast, didn't articulate myself. In 200 conversations later, I'm going to be better. But I bet you 6 months ago when I was in my last conversation, it wasn't as good.
I think there's a real balance from my own experience, and even I think it's what you're getting to as well. And in some aspects is there's a certain amount of structure and work that needs to be done, and due diligence and preparation, and then there's just a surrendering and an intuitive, like in the moment, like what feels right, and just going with that.
Can't lose, man.
Yeah.
Either you win, and who doesn't like winning, or you fail and you learn and you change your behavior and you win next time.
Yeah. So you're winning.
If you have that awareness of how failure serves you, and there are some people who, like this was me you can be the victim of that and you just keep losing and you go like, you become addicted to being the hero. Like, oh, I keep falling and failing and you sabotage yourself. You don't prepare and you go like, it's going to make the story better. You just got to get clear on what success looks like be really, really specific on what it looks like from whatever it is you're doing. And then just be comparing yourself to your future self, not someone else, but your future self. What does that look like? Because success leaves clues, like all the greats. It's very unlikely that you're going to be doing something unique in this world. Like a successful podcast, it's not fucking unique.
Yeah.
What do? I naturally know that I'm going to do it authentically because I've fucking copied enough people. But you can be inspired by people and replicate, you know, like what does it look like to be successful? What are the behaviors that they do? Like episode titles or guest selection, reels. Just be open-minded.
What makes a good question? Good.
Well, when I ask one to a guest,
yeah.
What is the metric, right? Like, is it for the listener's value? Like, for me, like a good question would be when the answer is in the minority. So what I mean is like when someone gives an answer and it's like, oh, it makes someone think and it's interesting and it's like, I haven't seen it that way. It changes the way that they perceive what normalcy is. So I saw a clip the other day, I won't mention it. I sent a message to the guy and it was a truism. Do you know what a truism is? I didn't even know how I would define it before. Like, I looked it up.
Define it to me.
So a truism is basically like a statement that is so obvious, but they're trying to be interesting when they say it.
Right.
So it's like, it's just a statement that's like repeating something that everyone sort of knows, but they're trying to be like this philosopher. And they said this thing and I was like, well, it's pretty fucking obvious. And they made it as like a podcast clip. And I was like, if I share clips that are so obvious like that, like I just don't want to be, that gives me the ick. Because I want to create content that makes people think differently and isn't just repeating something that's obvious. It's like me posting a clip, and it's like sometimes yes, the cliches you know with motivational sounds can be good, but if I'm just like work hard, it gets you results, and that's a clip, like who gives a fuck? Yeah. Everyone knows that, but like okay, what are all these other things about my beliefs? You know, like there's so many ways to make interesting content, and I don't know. I just think a good question is one that makes someone pause and think differently for a second and go, could I implement this into my life? Or why do I think that way in the first place? Some guests will say like, it's a good question. And then you're like, yeah, that's fucked. Yeah.
Well, you said that today, so that's good. How do you balance truth versus entertainment versus transformation in the conversation?
Truth? Like, what do you mean? Like,
I guess just like, getting to the heart or speaking truth versus like, entertainment. Not that I feel like you.
I find it entertaining to find truth. Yeah. So for me, I find so much value and fulfillment from peeling back the layers, and like I genuinely feel it in myself after a conversation. Like I get energized by the thing, and I'm just like, wow, that was sick. I can't wait for people to listen to that. And you know, not every time. Sometimes you're fucking tired, but you still do the thing. But like, I love asking questions, and I think that's what we don't do enough of.
Yeah.
Truth is an interesting concept, right? Because some people think it's subjective and it's all reality. I'll tell you something interesting. I saw a clip the other day that I really liked, and it was someone was talking, and I think I fall into this pattern a lot, and I think I'm changing the way I speak about it because I think it's true. When people are obsessed about saying my truth, there's a real egoic part of someone saying my truth. Like, your truth should be in the absence of ego. It's reality. It's seeing things objectively. It's the collapsing of pride and shame and seeing the world neutrally. But when people say my truth, they start to fall into pride and then they actually fall into victim mode where they're like, my truth, this happened to me. And then they're really identified with it. And that's not truth. That's still a distortion of reality. Yeah. And don't worry, I have all these biases too. I'm part of it. It's a very human thing, right? But it's become like this spiritual bypassing, this spiritual badge of honor. Like, I'm spiritual. It's my truth.
Yeah, it's a shadowy aspect of living your authentic self. Right? You know, there's obviously I think it's important to live authentically, whatever that may mean. But it often gets taken by, this stereotypical spiritual person who is essentially bypassing everything.
They use it to deflect responsibility as well. Yeah. Because it's like, you're in the wrong, and that's my truth.
Yeah. Or even just to not be accountable to social dynamics, and not be aware of social cohesion within a group. You're just like, this is repulsive. Yeah. Shut up. Talk to me about going to Melbourne and some of your recent guests, because I think you've had some really interesting guests on, like Scott. Is it Jake from Rattlesnake?
Yeah.
Yeah. So tell me how Melbourne was, and
I guess I spoke to you about it when I was ringing you from the car, and it's like when you have a snapshot into the future, right? Because traveling for the podcast is one of the things that I'm going to be doing when it happens, and you get a taste of what that life's like, and you can really feel like, is this the thing for me? And I think it's okay if you do that and you're like, it's not really what I thought it was. It's okay to pivot and be like, but I think most of us don't give ourselves the opportunity to test the life we truly want and realize if the life we have is the one we want. And I think sometimes it's okay to take a risk and be okay with not liking the thing. Because there's also the element of the sunken cost fallacy, where the sunk cost fallacy, where we do something, we think we have to keep doing it because we've already invested a certain amount of time in it. A lot of us, there is a lot of people give up easily, but a lot of people also keep doing things because they've already invested time into it. Relationships are a good example, right? I've been together for 7 years. I should stick in this relationship. And it's the sunk cost fallacy because I've already invested this much time. Okay. I may as well still continue doing the thing. But with the podcast, it was the opposite experience. I was like, this is it. This is the routine, doing an episode a day, editing, taking notes, going for walks. Obviously that'd be living the dream, right? But I felt like it was super interesting to have that experience where I was almost taking a bit of the future, right? And experiencing it now, and I really felt aligned and really felt like this is what I want to do. So it was a really, what would you call it? A reaffirming experience. And then meeting people that do. Scott's a legend.
Yeah, he's amazing.
I just, I don't agree with everything he said. I think there are parts of the when he talked about 20, I thought it was.
Listen to it, yeah.
Okay, but do you see the clip about the 25-year-old life coaches? I mean, I agree in the sense that a lot of I fell into that trap, right? That naivety. But I also think, man, the young people today are the visionaries because they haven't had all the beliefs put onto them. They haven't absorbed all of the conditioning. And that's the young people. If you look back at history, young people are often the ones who revolt in society because they haven't accepted what the older people, the authority figures are telling them. So while I agree in the sense of these young people are not more naive, including myself, these are the people who are going to change the world in a positive direction. So I think I see sort of both sides, but he has such a good view on masculinity, and he's just so grounded. I feel like he's had such diverse experiences. So I love the way he frames things through, and I just love some of the, because I often timestamp episodes, and the average timestamps would be 6 to 10 timestamp. Dude, I had 30 timestamps.
Yeah, wow.
Because I was like, man, that's going to be a good clip, and I've only done 5 or 6 of them, but and then obviously I met 360, which was cool. But then again, I'm also people love that because people are oh, you got 360. I'm like, man, he's just a guy. Who gives a fuck? Yes, he's done some cool things, but I've learned more from people who have 0 followers.
Yeah.
It's what a cool experience because he has a unique experience which provides unique value. That's interesting to me. You know what I mean? It's not just the fact that, he's famous, right? Cool, that might look cool for the podcast. But that's still perception. That's still what other people think. I genuinely enjoyed it because I know that he's had unique experiences. Because some of my favorite episodes, Mitchell Vickridge, right? Not many people know who he is, right? He doesn't have a massive Instagram, but I know that he has serious value, and that's what I love. I love people who provide value.
Yeah.
Overall experience was fun. It was good to see what it was like. But
360 seemed pretty grounded from what I saw.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it was a cool chat, and we spoke a lot about faith. But what I've noticed from all these conversations is everyone's I can as I've because I've got a lot of psychology background, I can see why people end up the way they are. Like when I look back and when they tell me their story, when they tell me why they do what they do, everything makes sense in retrospect. And I can also see the biases that people hold. And sometimes I can see the shadow side of them as well. Like when they have this one-dimensional side of them, I'm like, you know, and it gives them success, but then there's like a price tag. So I feel like I learn not only from people's successes, but, you know, when I see things in people that I don't like as well. Because I think we always want to learn from what people have done well, but you can equally learn a lot about from what people have done poorly and what you don't want in people. So
sure.
I learn from both ends of the candlestick.
I love that, man. I want to get into how you deal with criticism and how you stay grounded through this experience.
The D-Martini's been super useful.
Yeah.
I know. Luckily, we're forming a partnership alliance today, so I'll tell you about it after. Anyways, it's got... I haven't been cancelled like Jack was, right? So I can't relate to like...
Talk to me about the Jack experience. So what happened? Like, how did he get cancelled?
Well, you know about like the Jordan Tan, Abby Chatfield thing.
Yeah.
Long story short, like Jack and I always catch up with people for coffees. Like it's been a big, when we were doing a lot of, he was on for like 8 episodes, early days. We're doing this mental health era.
Yep.
And he was, he's my best friend. We've done heaps of episodes together. We catch up with people for coffee. We're like, hey, you're interesting. Let's have a chat. And so Jordan Tan was someone that we know mutually. She follows Jack. She'd done modeling with my girlfriend. So like we knew each other. And then Jack was like, because she had very strong views, very strong feminist, and we wanted to learn from her perspective. We also wanted to give our perspective. And apparently that's the wrong thing to do because, that you can't do that. But it's like, so fucking what? We have a perspective. It might not be right. You might have a perspective. It might not be right. But let's collaborate ideas. I think Aristotle says it right. It's the mark of an educated mind to be able to entertain an idea without accepting it. Most strong feminists can't do that. They impose their worldviews like, this is the right thing. Whereas I'm just like, hey, I might be right, I might be wrong, but if we don't actually stress test our ideas, we're not going to know. And then she made a video and called Jack out. And look, our response, or his response with the video was poor. Like we had, his initial response was, when you look back, it would have worked. My response, like I made 2 videos, they never got posted because we had a friend who was this woman, quite famous, and she was sort of pretending to be on our side, but she was manipulating us because she actually had wounds from men as well, and it was really disappointing. But it made it. But then me and Jack look back, and it's funny because wherever Jack goes, he's in Canada and people recognize him.
Wow.
So I can't speak on behalf of his experience. Yeah. My experience was like, I felt a lot of shame because I didn't speak up and make these videos. But then I was like, I did make a video, but I got told not to post it. And then, and then I felt really bad because he was at the brunt of it. But then people don't know that like he was living here. He was living in this house because he was out of his family house. And there's so much more to the story. But the thing that pissed us off the most was the fact that all these people were making up the biggest lies. Like we knew this person. People saying we lured this stranger into the corner of a room. First of all, we never met her. Second of all, it was over social media. It was respectful communication. And we actually knew her and she knew us. What the fuck are you talking about? There's people literally killing and raping people, harassing people. We are literally mutual friends and he got cancelled. That's the problem with Australia. Moral hypocrisy. Like we attack the wrong people. We keep the wrong people accountable. Jack and I were 2 people on a journey to improve ourselves. And yeah, we're not fucking perfect, but we were willing to put ourselves out there. And somehow it got hold of the feminist landscape, and then Abby Chatfield got a hold of it. But to be honest, I think when I look back, I'm like, that's a reference point for me that I never want to be that weak again. Yeah. Like that was weakness in me. That's genuine weakness in me.
Because you obviously had intuition to want to post a video.
Oh man, that was weakness. Yeah. I wasn't strong enough. But guess what? That will never happen again. And I've had times recently where I got called because I was talking about how gender shouldn't be taught to year 2s and they shouldn't be learning that you can be a furry. And I got called a transphobe and it wasn't that big. It wasn't like a cancel video. But I was like, no, this is why I think what I think. And yeah, initially like it triggers your amygdala and you're like, oh. But you got to endure that. And there's been heaps of criticisms over the time. But you've just got to be willing to realize that most of the time it isn't going to be a physical threat to your life. And everyone's imposing their worldview onto everyone. But
I had some criticism from one of the videos that we made.
Really?
Yeah. Someone messaged me on TikTok saying, I can't remember the full thing, but basically they started off by saying, I'd stolen my look from the queer community. And how could someone who's so clearly stolen their look from the queer community be speaking like this? And I was just like...
What video was that?
The one where I was talking about, I said, like, I've got no problems with, like, LGBTQ, transgender, whatever.
Oh, yeah.
And but I just think, like, you know, we have natural imperatives as male or female. Anyway. Yeah, it was someone with no profile picture and blah, 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 blah. So.
Everyone's doing you a blessing when you get criticism. Like, I reckon if I look back in 5 years' time, if I looked at all the negative comments, I've probably seen 1% of them right now, because the bigger you get, the more criticism you're going to get. And yeah, I'm probably going to be some times where I might get low, but I'll evolve. You just got to be able to embrace. If you have that perception, life's going to be easy. And that's the thing. I need to stop using the DMRT method, but a lot of us want that one-sided experience, right? Like, it's going to be easy. But for me, I realize there's pain and suffering. And in the suffering, there's the growth. So a question I always ask, like, for example, when I got that criticism, was, how is this going to benefit me? What are the benefits? You start listing them, even in your head. It's going to make me more resilient. It's going to make me be able to speak my truth, going to impact more people. You start to stabilize. Oh, this is actually happening for me. This is allowing me to be the person I truly want to be. And then, yeah, it still might be painful, but you've stabilized it a bit more, and you aren't resisting that experience, and you aren't letting it live in your mind. Because when the only reason stuff occupies space and time in your mind, and it takes up this mental real estate, is because you have a distortion of reality in the positive fantasy or the negative association with the nightmare. So when you're able to collapse it using the process, you can free yourself from the baggage.
I really love this topic, and it's a big part of why I want to create spaces where we have challenging conversations and just long form conversation to try and get to the heart or the truth of things, right? So I want to get into like civic skepticism and critical thinking. Your job is basically to sit in the middle of ideas, sometimes opposing ideas. And so I want to talk to you about civic skepticism, healthy doubt that keeps society sane. So what does truth mean to you? Personal, spiritual, scientific, moral?
Well, truth would be the absence of the distortion. Whenever you feel an emotion, it's a distortion of reality. We can have transcendental feelings, which is when you collapse both. But often when we have an emotion, it's usually a distortion. So truth for me would be the absence of emotion, from the distortion. Now, I think people get confused with transcendental feelings, right? Because someone will feel really grateful. That's not, a lot of the time, that's not an emotion. That's a transcendental feeling. Define
transcendental for people who maybe don't understand.
It's hard to explain, but it's basically, it's not an emotion where it's like, an emotion, like I said, from the amygdala is like go towards or run away from. It's not both. It's like this spiritual, it's hard to define. It's like a spiritual, like, appreciation of the moment, like a joy, and it's like a...
So you mean just like an objective?
Like gratitude. I think it's really just gratitude and love, man.
Okay.
And it's like that, you know, that everyone's had that feeling in their life where they just wouldn't change this moment for anything. That they don't feel like they're using this moment for something in the future. Like where it's like, this, I feel really good because it means I'm going to be successful in the future, or, you know, a painful moment. It's really just like an absence of time, and they're just really in the moment. And it's like this, a lot of the time you're experiencing a transcendental feeling. Like, it's hard to define, but it's easy to remember what it feels like. And that is probably where truth sits closer towards, you're not always going to have those feelings, right? Because we're oscillating between emotions throughout the whole fucking day. But I think truth is a reality that is in the absence of a distortion. But we're so biased, and there's always a denial of our own bias. We're always like, no, this is my truth, or I'm being objective. It's like we're always pushing our worldview, and I do it too. So as long as you're aware of that, I think the healthy skepticism of your own certainties can be quite useful. But that you also got to pair that with the fact that most people just doubt themselves. So it's a cookie. You gotta know. That's why coaching and personalizing a message to the right person is super important.
What would be your advice to someone who doesn't back themselves when it comes to like their intuitive thoughts around a certain subject?
Do you mean speaking their truth about something, or?
Yeah.
Usually there's an unconscious payoff that someone gets. So someone doesn't want to rock the boat. They don't want to be in conflict because maybe, they're trying to run away from a dynamic that they had in their childhood. So there's always an unconscious payoff where, maybe they were the peacekeeper in the family. So now that when there's polarity in the world, they want to be the peacekeeper. They want to be best on both sides. So their unconscious template of life has been that, the peacekeeper. They're worthy because they keep the peace and they're the person that holds the family together. So they're trying to do that for the world now. It's a big fucking task. So all of these unconscious templates that we have when we're growing up start to replicate. So I would think it's not a coincidence. So whenever you can fall into victim mode really easily, that's why working with a coach who's specialized in something like that. And a lot of the time you can go to therapy and you can be the hero and be the victim of your story. Every psychologist is different, so I can't give a cookie cutter answer. But a lot of people stay in therapy because it keeps them in the same story. They keep repeating the same story. This happened to me. This is why my life's shit. This happened to me. And then the therapist might make them feel good, but it doesn't make them see reality. It doesn't make them see the other side of the story.
When does skepticism become cynicism or even paranoia?
I think you've got to be quite aware of like how you feel on the day to day. Like, I always think our belief system, like our reticular activating system, is like a defense attorney. We're constantly trying to defend our beliefs. When you start going into the world and in your awareness and in your body, it starts to feel tense and you start to feel like the world is unjust. And you have this really negative appraisal of the world and yourself and life. And it's like a bit of a distortion. You can become quite cynical. But I think there's, like I said, equilibrium is the balance of like cynicism and like blind optimism, right? Like when you're stable in the middle, grounded, you see both sides, and that can be really hard to pick up on because usually there's so much with an emotion. We feel so certain that it's right, and our belief system is trying to defend the emotion because usually it's an identity of who we think we are. It's an extension of the emotion. So it's really hard to sometimes be aware because we want to be right. We want to be right more than we want to be free. And that's what happens with our
I like that.
Emotions.
What are the most common thinking traps you see in smart people?
I know because that's everyone's smart in different ways. In terms of people who think a lot, not being able to let go, and that's saying that I've struggled with, but I'm improving a lot at, is it's weird, isn't it? Because thinking and the mind for me is the greatest tool I have, and it's probably going to be the reason that I have success. But at the times, the thing that makes me professionally successful, so like my thinking, my mind, the podcast, is I need to let go of the same thing that'll make me successful in my personal life. The overthinking can ruin, has at times been a threat to my relationships in my life. It's the same thing that has made me take positive action in my professional career. And usually there's this incongruency between what works for professional life and personal life. And you need to be able to know when to apply the mind and when to let go. Because sometimes it can be very beneficial to apply thinking to your personal life. So I think it's a very nuanced conversation. But I think anything that occupies time and space in your mind, usually you're not seeing reality. And you're probably, I think a lot in my mind, but it's the attachment to thoughts. If you become fused with the automatic thoughts that you have, that's where it gets fucking tiring. Because every thought that you have that enters your mind creates an emotion, changes your biochemistry, and there's this addiction to the negative feelings, and you think it's you, and then your vibration goes down. So creating space between thought and response is important, but we're so overstimulated, man. It doesn't help.
Where do you personally get emotionally hijacked?
When it comes to the success of the podcast?
Just in life in general, or certain subjects, topics?
Yeah. It's things in my personal relationship that can trigger me. It's things in the success of the podcast when growth's happening, it feels really good, and when it's not, like a fear of, am I going to get there?
Okay.
And I try and use the process to stabilize myself. Sometimes I've found that I'm so, like, when I compare myself, how I respond to life from 2 years ago is so much better. Like, you'll know who you are when things go shit, not when things are going well. You find out nothing about your character when things are going well. So I find that when I'm in my lowest, when I'm hitting a low and I'm hitting a valley, I get an indication of where I'm at in my journey. And then I can look back and go, look at all the valleys and see progression in my response. That's when I know I'm growing, rather than like at the top of the peak of the mountain going, yeah, I've got strong character. It's like fucking anyone can be happy winning.
What do you think makes healthy discourse, and why do you think it's so important?
I think it stems down to the Aristotle thing, right? Like, can you entertain an idea without accepting it? And I think we're always trying to impose our worldview onto people. But I think, why do we do that? What is like at the core of that? And I think it's because, I said this in a podcast the other day, but if you take away someone's worldview, you take away the purpose and meaning of their life, even if it's a subconscious thing. But if my worldview is different to yours, and all the activities that you take in your life are deemed redundant in my worldview, it's going to strip you of your meaning, bro. And our belief system, our identity, our ego is like so attached to that. So I think healthy discourse is about realizing that you aren't your worldview, and that's hard for people to comprehend. And but I think you're more than fucking the beliefs that you see the world through, that lens that you see the world. You're the observer of your thoughts, of your beliefs. And I think healthy discourse is very difficult, especially with people who have such strong views, because everyone knows this. Actually, that's wrong. Anyone who holds an extreme view, a really extreme view, and they say that everyone else is the thing that they are. They're so hypocritical, these people who are like so strong and certain that they have the answer, their worldview's right. They're always calling people these names like bigot, intolerant, blah, 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 when they are that too. So I think letting go of your certainty is key, but then there's also the nuance of like being able to have your boundaries and know when they're being crossed, and knowing when to enforce what you know for certain. Because there's a lot that I don't know for certain, but there's a lot that I know about what I will accept in my life. And you got to be able to know the difference between the two.
And you'd say that comes down to your values.
Yeah, values, what you will and won't tolerate, because your standards reinforce that. And then that's what drives your self-worth. When you are embodied with your values and your standards, that's what drives self-worth up. And that's what makes someone feel good in themselves.
How do you disagree with someone without it becoming an identity war?
I think it comes back to knowing that your beliefs aren't you. But I think it's really hard because it's quite subconscious. I would think that realizing that we're not separate. So like what I see in them is in me, and what I don't like in them, I have in me. What I like in them, maybe I have in me as well, because it's the pride or shame, right? But we attack someone because we're like, they're displaying this trait and we despise that. So sometimes you can ask yourself, like, what do I see in them and what don't I like, and how is it in my life? And start to think back about all the times you did that thing. You'll start to dissolve the distortion of that judgment, because that's what it is. That's what it all stems down to. We think that we are this, like, we all want to take the pride of the moral, the good person. That doesn't mean there aren't fucking evil people out there doing shit, right? But a lot of the time, the things that we judge in other people, like you think in a family dynamic, because that's where the thing I think interesting about family dynamics is you can't escape family, in the sense of like your family is your family.
Yep.
And you're forced to confront things that you would leave in a relationship for. And I see that with my brother, in my family, and that's a teacher. They're the same as a relationship. You have to deal with it. You can't just
you can't run away from it.
You have to deal with it. And then I think another thing to finalize that is you will learn 100 times more about the world from the people you disagree with than the people you agree with. Everyone is obsessed about being right and not free. You'll become free when you realize everything they have, you have in some capacity too. And we're more similar than we realize. And that's what a problem in our world is. We're judging everyone for sinning differently to us and how we're sinning.
Yeah, I think a very freeing moment for me was just, to some degree, understanding the heinous acts of the 20th century, and being somewhat aware of like the Gulag Archipelago and some of Solzhenitsyn's writing and stuff like that, and even the Stanford experiment, and knowing that evil exists within me and within all of us, and it probably led me down quite a cynical chapter of my life. Maybe we spoke about this, but yeah, I feel like I've come out of that now, which has been really nice.
The cynicism often leads to the innocence as well.
Yeah.
Because I think we deprive ourselves of our innocence. We get robbed of that, and then we're placing all these moral injunctions onto ourselves. We get trapped in the cycle of guilt. We're often, as Scott said in his story, like you're constantly in situations where you're made to feel guilty, and the purpose is to help you realize your innocence and see the other side. And that's, that's probably reflected in world events at the moment.
Yeah. What problem do extreme ideologies solve for people?
What problem do extreme ideologies solve for people? I think they solve the problem of uncertainty and the void in their life. It gives them meaning, it gives them significance, it makes them feel like they're the hero of their story because they're enforcing their worldview. So I wouldn't say it solves a problem, I'd say it closes a loop, because I think our mind is trying to always constantly bridge the uncertainty. And I think when you have a worldview, it closes that gap. And I'm very at the threshold of like, I know there's some greater power in this world. I'm not a big guy of saying like, I believe in God, but I know there's some creator, something. And a lot of people take on Christianity after something painful. And a lot of the time is because it closes that certainty gap, because it's like, I've had many interesting conversations about God, and I think it's a very interesting, complex conversation, but I think at the end of the day, our mind is an uncertainty reducing machine. So it's constantly trying to collapse what we don't know so that we feel safe, and the brain, because what we're trying to do is survive. A worldview offers hey, you're going to be okay if you embody this. And I think that's what most religions are, right? It's like, hey, we're going to solve your uncertainty. You'll be promised the afterlife and you'll live happily ever after if you just embody this. And everything in the world is sales. Everyone's selling something, and it's that they are right. They have the answer to reduce uncertainty.
Do you think that's why, I guess, in recent times we've become so secular, because people are starting to see, or they have seen through the cracks of conventional religion, let's say?
And religion and faith, man, the fact that they're so fused is so problematic, because
I agree.
Because religion is just this human mind interpretation of, I know this thing. It's the certainty of like, I have the answer. Whereas faith is a beautiful thing that I relinquished for so long because I was so repelled by the atrocities that religions inflicted. And I was so cynical. I was like, man, these fucking people, I don't want to be because they're fused together.
Yeah.
Whereas now I've been able to just delineate between the two and realize I can have faith and not be this super religious guy.
I completely agree, and that's the exact same journey that I've been on. And I think, not to say that it's the right way, but by viewing faith in that aspect seems expansive as opposed to rigid. And it's not outsourcing my curiosity to want to understand. It's just more of a humility and acceptance of there's just things in this world that I can't explain. And that feels good to me. It feels right to me. Yeah. What do you think the antidote is to these extreme ideologies? And I guess to ask you another question is, do you think they're more prevalent now in society than they were maybe 100 years ago?
I'll have to ask my soul, see what lives he's lived, and if I can... I think they're more prevalent because we have social media. We're constantly we're exposed to like 100 different worldviews every day, like subtle nuances, sometimes more extreme. But that's quite a confronting prospect for our amygdala every single day it's like constantly threatened, like, because when you see your phone and you're scrolling, you might be, looking at a girl or looking at some terrorist attack, but what is actually happening in your brain is super interesting to me from like neurotransmitter regions of the brain point of perspective, because we start going from like the frontal cortex and like the neocortex, the really evolved part of our brain. We start getting straight into the amygdala, and it's like it's starting to detect a threat. It's like, is this problematic for me? Like, and every time we're scrolling, like we're getting different worldviews in subtle different ways, because we need to seek congruency between who we think we are inside, our beliefs, and what we see on the outside. Even things such as like when you see an OnlyFans girl, you have to make a decision: is this right or wrong to be on here? And then every little thing you observe and the information you consume will be testing you subconsciously, and it's quite a draining thing. So coming back to the question about the ideologies in comparison 100 years ago versus now, I would say, yeah, it's just the availability of the multitude of different worldviews. And I think you have the extreme ones, which are super religious, and it's problematic. And how can you solve that? I think you have to protect. I'm pretty big on like, you have to protect your people. Like, I'm big on like, you know, what was the purpose of immigration? I hear this guy who runs the Trigonometry podcast. He was talking about like immigration was all about solving gaps in skilled labor. Whereas now it's like there's too much freedom we're allowing. And all the people I respect from like Two Worlds Collide, they're all having good conversations about it. And like, I agree with pretty much, I'd say 95% of what Two World Collide's guys saying about like protecting our people. And I think a lot of these people have been saying this stuff, man. Like even when it was COVID and I was talking about, you know, why are we forcing people to get a vaccine that hasn't been tested? You know, people are having heart complications. Credible scientists are getting their accounts banned. All this stuff. There's all these holistic solutions and people didn't care because it didn't affect them until either someone they knew had a heart attack or, you know.
Why do you think we can't talk about these subjects? So if we talk about immigration, why can't we talk about there being a potential problem with immigration, but also see that there's many beautiful aspects to immigration? Like you said, it's filling in the gaps in the past. And there is a beauty to diversity as well, but obviously it's hit a tipping point, and you know there's clearly problems with it in the world. And then also with the COVID thing as well, is like, yeah, we can talk about vaccines as a whole, and there's probably a lot of validity in some of them, but we can't then have a conversation about specific ones maybe relating to COVID and question them and be like, hey, like these haven't been tested long, and you know my friend's just got myocarditis, or and then you know why can't we and even with the you know the Bondi attacks, for me, irrespective of like what's happened and how like awful it is and the victims and everyone involved, I think the fact that it was a Muslim man that took down one of the extremists on an Islamic, who was an extreme, what would you say? How would you class it? An Islamic extremist? I feel like for me opens the conversation easier to be like, there's clearly a problem with radicalized Islamic people, but it doesn't mean that I'm a racist. So why do we find it hard to like have these nuanced conversations?
The difficulty is because we're still scared of what people think of us. And because moral injunctions have been weaponized by the left when it comes to like, let's say the rights, like let's protect our people. Yeah. You know, you're a racist, you're a xenophobe, fuck whatever. There's 100 labels people throw, right? That you can have a logical argument without the emotion. For example, when I was talking about gender on Facebook the other day, and this person started saying, just say you're transphobic. And just like I'm presenting facts. Let's talk facts. Let's not start using weapons of moral worth as like, it doesn't. And the thing is, we're so scared of that. We start internalizing that. Maybe they are right. And it's like, no, stick to the facts and you'll be fine. And then you can deal with the facts. Like, okay, what has happened? You know, what events, and be logical about it. Like, what does it mean if these people come into our work in our country? Just if you stick with the facts, you'll be fine. But people can't disentangle or dismantle between, you know, the facts and the emotion. And the left are very good at weaponizing the emotion, and that has controlled the media. But the media is super left, and the media is controlled by who? Who controls the media in Australia?
I don't know. Tell
BlackRock. Sam Worlds Collide did a podcast, and he basically shows how the media have these rating scales, and it's all enforced by BlackRock, which is a company, and you keep tracing the money. It's the people who control the world. They want these leftist ideologies to be infused in our society because it creates more chaos.
Disruption.
Man, it's what they want. It's what they want, and we're all falling for the trap, and now we're seeing the result of that bullshit. And then the people at the top don't even want to take responsibility, right? And they're not even speaking to the facts. Like the government was talking about. But the thing is, I've been thinking this stuff for fucking years. All these people who have been trying to talk about in COVID, and like now I'm like, this stuff wouldn't have happened if we actually spoke about it. And if we don't speak about it now and take significant action, like I said when we spoke about life will give you what you need, you'll keep getting the consequences in our country until we're willing to take ownership. But it relies on compliance. So the government, telling everyone what to do, and this leftist movement, it relies on compliance in the majority. But most people don't fucking put up with this shit. It's just they're quiet. They're silent. The left shout the loudest, and that's what's been corrupting our nation.
What would you say to someone who's like, so they just listened to this part of the conversation and you spoke about BlackRock and stuff, and they would be like, oh, that's a conspiracy, man. There's not some person that's like pulling strings. And
just follow the facts. Yeah. Follow the money. See where it goes. You don't have to make a conclusion about it, but just follow it and ask the question. Why, and look to people who have spoken out. Look to the facts of the events. And I don't dive too deep into it because it can lead you down a rabbit hole, but it's really good to be aware of like what's happening in the world. And if you stick with the facts and you ask questions and you be logical about it, you get way more awareness around what's actually happening, why there's like these hidden agendas. And I'm not here to say the world is evil, but there are definitely people who are evil and they have a lot of control and a lot of resources.
Yeah, I would agree. And I think there's probably a lot of incompetency as well, and just like thinking this is the right thing to do. And I think it's a lot of really good-hearted people that are just doing the wrong thing.
Well, people in government, man, I don't want to say I don't blame them, but they're puppets, man. That they can't take positive action because they're fucking controlled. That's the thing. It's like we're gonna point the finger at them. Yes, I think that's appropriate, but we've got to realize they're genuine puppets. Like there's people who will be calling the Prime Minister of Australia and telling him this is what you have to say and this is why we want you to say it. That might happen. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, but if you're not willing to realize that could be a possibility, you'll rely on a person who is getting controlled.
Well, it's terrifying.
Oh, it's
even like, because look, I am someone who loves to entertain ideas like this, and I'm curious about it to a degree where I'm like, hey, this is unhealthy for me right now. But it's still terrifying. As a father, I'm like, okay, well, what's the world going to be like, in 10, 20, 30 years?
I'm pretty optimistic that we're heading in a good direction, but you need revolution to change what's happening because our system, our financial system, like I don't even know how people aren't even aware. Like, how is this not taught? But do you realize that when the banks issue loans and money, that it just creates perpetual debt? Like, if the bank, think it's fucking so obvious, but like if the bank hands out $1 million to someone and they're asking for 1.5 million they've only given out 1 million. And they're asking for 1.5. What does that create automatically?
Yeah, debt.
Yeah, and then it's a cycle of debt that continues. And debt will never be paid off because when you have debt, you're controlled. It's true, isn't it? When you have debt, you're controlled. And what they've done is the people who run the money in the world, who are the people who issue money, who run the banks, and you can follow the money. This is what people do. They have the power because they control everything. Because everyone's owes them.
What are your thoughts on knowing something intuitively versus intellectually? And do you think they can be mutually exclusive?
Yeah, this is a good one. This is like the Mary's Room sort of embodiment of the intellect versus like the actual in-person experience. I think there are some things that like experiences can teach you that knowing something, I wouldn't even call it knowing, but like being aware of the intellect and the bubble wrapping of the thing can't. Like, for example, it's really easy in theory to be like, this is how you should communicate to your partner. But when you have the heat of the emotion hijacking your system, it's really hard to remember that, right? So I think I think there's too much stigma around that knowing things are problematic. Like, we're in the information era, right? There's so much information. And I think that can somewhat be demonized because like, even Scott was talking about, I agree with a lot of what he's saying about like, we don't embody a lot of it. And I think if you're not embodying things as you go, there's no real point to having it. But I think our drive and curiosity to not just accept something at face value is what is going to lead to positive change in the world, because it means we aren't just taking things at face value and accepting it as the inherent truth because someone in authority And a lot of the reason it is authority is because we have put them in our perception in authority. I said this to my brother yesterday. I was like, this would fucking make an interesting clip. But like, I said this to my brother. I was like, just imagine for some reason all of our minds in Australia were hijacked. And tomorrow, everyone decided it would be the day they wouldn't go to work. Just imagine the chaos that would ensue in Australia if everyone just didn't go to... Think about the world. What would happen? Just think about it would collapse. Power would go out, systems would falter, chaos would ensue. And then you think, okay, so what's holding it together? What is holding this world together? It's everyone just playing their role, right? And I'm not trying to say this is a bad thing, but you got to think that the world only runs because the majority of people play their part. And the people who benefit from everyone playing their part are just sitting back and laughing. And I had a guest on, and apparently all these people who behind closed doors, who really run the money, run the world, they just laugh at us and they call us sheep because we just follow exactly what they say to do. And it's scary, man, because it's like you don't even know what they look like. And a lot of them have evil agendas. I think the majority of people in this world are like, I think people are good and they're trying to do good, but they've got some evil energy that's sort of corrupting people, and it is scary. But I think with all this chaos that is happening, I think it's an evolution, and I think there's going to be a mass awakening. You know, there's all those famous quotes about, you know, when there's chaos, there's like a hidden order, and that's what I think's happening. And I think I've got that as my comfort, you know, because it's really easy to get, you know, very like cynical, nihilistic, and like fuck, the world's going to end. But I think if you have the undercurrent of like within the chaos, you know that there's going to be order. People are awakening. You get your foundations right. You connect with good people. You know, 99% of people in Australia like have really good hearts and are trying to just provide for their family. And I think if you have that as your undercurrent, you know, there's going to be a bit of chaos, but I think we'll be okay eventually.
You spoke about faith. Do you believe in God?
I find it's so interesting because it's like, I don't know. I believe there's something, right? What is God? God's this 3-letter word that we've created, right? Let's say we just took away. Do I believe in, like, would you agree that if I asked a religious person, I said, would you accept that God is something, some higher power? So if I changed the definition of God to some higher power, right? And then I said, Egan, do you believe in a higher power? I'd say yes. So we would be in agreement because of the way we've changed the language of God. But because we've labeled it God, and I have this resistance to God because of what people use the justification of God for, somehow our worldviews now are conflicting, even though there is a massive overlap with what we believe in this world. And that's the issue I have with religion as a whole, is because like, it's not because of what it is, it's because of what everyone thinks it is. So, do I believe in God? There's something, and it could be God, but I resist to say yes, because what does saying yes give to me that knowing there are higher power isn't? Like, you know, I don't need to, because I think a lot of people, you know, they start, you know, embodying this like I'm a religious person because it gives them the comfort, it gives them an identity as well, like, you know. I believe in God, and they wear chains, and that's cool. But I think if you're not embodying that, like I might embody the preachings and teachings of God and Jesus more than someone who says they believe in God. What makes me more religious? Is it the spreading of the messages, or is it the embodiment? And it begs the question, what matters? Is it what you do or what you say you do?
Yeah, I think it's a great answer. I went through my own journey with faith, and very similar to you, like I spoke before. And I've just come to, and I've probably adopted this, just use God as it's just an easy way to describe the higher power. It's not, and I don't have that in any rigid confines to what it means. I've asked you this before, but what are your gifts?
Gifts. I think similar to the purpose of the podcast, I think I can help people think differently. And I think that's a big part of what changes our life. It's when I think like if I ask someone like what matters, right, that they'll often bring it to like, you know, experiences, emotions, actions. You know, they say that's what creates a meaningful life. It's the actions you take. And when you regress everything down, you know, from behaviors, and you start pulling it back and you go really upstream, it ends up being a perception in the mind, because it's like, what do I perceive will give me a greater advantage than disadvantage. That's what creates the primal part of our psychology to do something or run away from something. So perceptions can be changed, and that's what I give people the tools to change their perception so they can create the life they want, because that's at the root. The perception's at the root. And you can go back to past experiences. But if you don't get to the perception and you just try and you're constantly trying to reframe the thought, do the action, you can have some success. Some people do. But if you don't balance that with a bit of like, why do I perceive this thing in my external world in some way? You'll probably be controlled, because the subconscious mind is where it all starts.
What are you building towards with Timeless Mindset, and what's the 5-year vision?
Well, for me, it's just a library of wisdom from fucking incredible people, interesting conversations, hopefully change some lives, hopefully change my life in the process. Just trying to create people who think differently, live their life differently, embody some of the principles, and just people who are interested changing the default state, the automatic, default way of living, and they want something more from this experience, and maybe they don't know what that looks like, but they're willing to have the courage to ask the questions and figure it out. The 5-year vision. Look, I've thought a lot about this, like obsessing about like making a vision and like, okay, does that give me accountability, or am I manifesting it, or am I limiting myself? And I think what actually matters, what matters is the action I take and how I feel doing it. Those are the two things that matter to me, because if I take the action that's going to move the needle, I'll get there. And if I focus on feeling, and what I mean by that is like really reminding myself that like this is meant to be enjoyable. So you often overlook the really enjoyable parts of it. So finding ways to enrich the experience. And then anytime I'm suffering or making victim stories, like how is this building the person I want to become? And with that 2-part process, I take the action. I have a process of just fucking volume of action. The material side of the podcast will get there eventually. So, but then I'm enjoying it. So that when I reach the top of the mountain, whatever people think that is, I don't even fucking know. Let's say I have 1 million followers. I can actually look back and go, I did it, but I enjoyed it as well. And I think that is rare. And I'd really like to be like, yeah, I did that. And I feel like I made significant inroads to that, but not at the top of Mount Success yet, but we're heading there.
If people have listened to this conversation, what do you want them to go and do after this?
Probably take a fucking deep breath. Look, head to my podcast and follow. I think just be willing to not accept things. And I think there's a paradox with accepting things as they are, but be okay with letting that curiosity come out and wanting to create a more meaningful life and not just settling. Don't fucking settle. It makes me so inspired, but man, it's just like there's so much abundance in this world. There's so much more, and there's so many curious people, but they just silence themselves. They suppress the most beautiful aspects of themselves to fit in. And I just think we're so much more capable than we think. And if we all, did a little bit more of that self-exploration and took a few more risks, and I think not only would be such a more well-connected world, but I think everyone would be enjoying themselves a lot more. And I just think the quality of your life is determined by the quality of the questions you ask yourself. I think there's many ways to ask good questions, and you can find some on my podcast. I ask plenty of questions.
I think that's a beautiful way to conclude this conversation. Thanks, man.
No, it was sweet. Yeah. I love being on the other end. It's so much easier as well. Yeah. Like when I'm hosting, just to wrap this up, when I'm hosting, you think so much more. Oh, because and I notice it when you were hosting. Like I can see myself in you when you're doing it, because you just there's this need to like, because I think you actually did incredible. Like I really enjoyed the experience, being able to cover a lot of topics. But it's so hard because like you've got the burden of responsibility. Yeah. You've got like. If it goes silent, it's not on me, baby. It's on you. Yeah. And I can enjoy myself, whereas you have the stress of like, you're the host.
Yeah, I'm tying it all together, and sometimes the thing that I find the hardest is unless I know my material really, really well, and obviously that just comes down to like I've got other life duties and stuff. There's only a certain amount of time that I can allocate to it. Maybe I'm being lazy, but I have to be thinking about where I'm going to take the conversation next, and it makes it hard for me to really listen, and so it's a hard balance. I try and listen and be obviously, and I think that's one of my gifts within this is I try and be as perceptive as I can with the conversation, but I also am thinking like, okay, what's next? Where do I want to take this? What structure have I got in the back of my mind?
I think you'll realize you'll improve with that. It took me 100. Sure. It took me 100 episodes, man. And you're what, 25, 20ish something?
No, not even. I think this will be my 16th maybe.
So you're a newbie, mate.
Yeah, I know.
And like it's an art form to be able to like have the mental real estate of like what I do is like I have the emergency. I call it the emergency. So like if they're saying something and I'm sort of stuck, sometimes I might write it down and if. Or sometimes I'm like, I've got confidence it'll be one part of my brain, but then I try and listen because like sometimes there's golden threads. It is fucking hard, and I haven't mastered that craft, but there's only one way to get better at it.
Yeah, it's just to continue to do it, and also it's just like dependent on like where you're at in your day. Like sometimes I can capture everything that they're saying in the conversation that I want to go through all the different threads and know exactly where I want to take the conversation. Sometimes I completely forget what I'm like. Oh, what the fuck was I? What do I want to ask them?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's cool, man. I'm stoked that we're both on this journey. And I think, just for Perth as a whole with podcasting, I'm excited to be, I guess, in that community. And it'd be cool to see both of us grow.
Yeah. We should host an event one night. That'd be cool. Like a live podcast night.
Well, this is something I wanted to talk to you about after this. I think that there's a lot of room for live discourse, intellectual discourse in a public setting.
All right, let's chat after the show, Brett.
Yeah.
All right, thanks for having me on. I really, really enjoyed it.
Thank you, man. And thanks again for letting me use your studio and uni fancy equipment.
Yeah, it's good, eh?
All right. Epic, bro.